other than you to
Grab
discuss.
Hey, got the new cast, man.
Jerry Con.
Pretty hefty.
Okay, on the,
27?
27.
Yeah. I was asked for something. It comes in there, I think.
You got some?
Yes, actually I
We can
do.
share.
Does anybody else need an extra one?
I just need 27. That's all.
I filed mine with the park house. I filed mine with the park house.
So you're aware that,
No, I left
Okay, well, let's get started.
you're aware that the park tax generates about $97,000 of revenue on an annual basis, or that's what we're projecting for next year. This year, it's a little higher than that. Hopefully, it'll be a little higher than that next year, and we'll ratchet it up a little bit. And every year, we transfer money out of the general fund into parks to cover the operating cost of the Parks Department. And last year was $109,509. We just did that again this year, just because we didn't think there was any way to increase it. Darren did not budget any substantial increases in his operating expenses. We had to kick up insurance based on our expectation that there will be some increases in that item. And the only kind of major point is the $28,400 in capital outlay. And I'll let him explain where that number comes from. It's for work at the Main Street Park, but the details Darren will explain for you.
What page are you looking at?
28 is the revenue page. Well, I mean, it starts on 27 through 29. The 28,400 is on 29.
Okay, the 28,400 comes from the park board recommendations. They'd like to finish up Main Street bathroom, and that would include a sidewalk, 8 lights, landscaping, and some benches, different benches better from what's down there.
You have a breakdown of what the costs are?
No, Mark Buckeye had specific ideas of what he wanted, and he was unable to make it tonight. He has all the breakdown. Because I suggested different stuff, but park board wanted to be more specific on what they want. They
Well-
want boxwood landscaping and the sidewalk down Washington.
Along the street?
Along the street, down towards Valley Street.
They got one now going from Main Street to the entrance, I mean, to the front.
Yes, we have like 2 of them, then we have one on the side there. They want one straight down towards Valley Street to connect there. Then they want boxwood hedges along the streets.
So is that 28,000 all for Main Street Park?
That's what they requested.
Everything else is all right in all the other parts?
No.
Well, I mean, it's capital improvement there.
Yes, it's it can be
Maintenance is a
used.
different deal.
It could be used for playground equipment in the city park, or it could be used to improve Valley Springs.
Of all the parks, which ones do you think is more critical or more of a priority?
My personal opinion, it's more, the big park.
What is needed out there?
How old is that slide up there?
That torpedo slide, the orange one.
It's like,
Twisty slide?
Twisty
Do we
slide.
need a new
No,
slide?
call it
Or
twisty
what?
slide.
it's like,
Oh, I was talking about what priorities.
Well, I'd
I don't know
like,
anything about sliding.
yeah.
what I'd like to see up there personally is a playground equipment like we got at Valley Springs, put down by Betty's Field, which is a little field where little kids play t-ball on. Because every time I go up through there and they have t-ball, well, we try to make a parking lot there, but nobody uses it. You see kids dart back and forth to go playground equipment on the other side,
Oh,
And-
we're waiting for the ones, maybe?
down below it,
Oh, down below.
down where the
Where
RC
the old-
car.
It's
Oh,
dangerous.
They've always, them kids have always crossed there.
Right.
That's why they put the speed bumps in
Right,
originally.
but
And
I've
they continue.
seen teenagers zoom up there without watching. And that's what, if we had like a playground equipment there on that side where these kids could go and play.
Where are the kids'
Yes.
parents when they're running back and forth across?
Watching T-ball.
I mean, how does the city police kids running back and forth across the street at the park?
Well, you can't, but they have a playground equipment there.
They're gonna
Like,
stay there.
They're gonna stay in that
They're
area
still gonna
more,
run back and forth.
but I don't think they'd be running as much. That's just my personal opinion.
Every time I've seen it, they've always had a parent with them since the speed bumps have went in. I'm sure the kids that cross there, they'll get away from their parents and cross there.
Besides that, is there anything else that you can think of that would help the park or is more important or less important?
Well, the walking trail, the tennis courts, but I got,
Oh, okay, we're talking about big park.
Briefly.
we're talking $100,000. I just got a bid from Lappy Cement. It was $125,000 to redo the park trail, $123,000 to redo the tennis courts. And I also got bids from St. Louis at about the same. And as far as doing asphalt overlay, the cracks are there are so wide right now that
What are you talking about? Overlay?
On the trail.
they just,
Trail or the
on the
course?
tennis
tennis
court, where the trails also, it's got huge cracks in it too. And, you know, I know we don't have money for that, but that'd be the priority.
A lot of people use that walking track.
There's a
There
lot of
used to
people,
be, I guess they still do.
they still do.
Yeah.
Darren, how much do you estimate that you spend on hourly, time, gas, equipment, mowing, most of that up there at the PR park? Just give me a guesstimate.
Two guys, about 2.5 days, 2.5 to 3 days to mow
The park,
the park.
not counting the other city property.
No, I was just referring to the park.
Just about the park. Well, that varies during ball season too, because we have to mow the ball fields a lot more. When we're not mowing the ball fields as much, maybe a day, day and a half.
But if you had to estimate how much that would cost, and just give me a guesstimate. There is like another side,
Yeah.
but what would you think that that would cost?
A week or a year. Or,
Year.
Annually.
Annually, yeah.
put me on the spot there.
Oh, that's okay. Just
I'd
rough it. I
say
mean,
about 15, 20,000 maybe,
a year.
roughly.
Well, Martin, I'm sure that's a number you could drill down and get a pretty good cost on, cost of mowing per square foot in the park. And I've mentioned this to several people throughout the last year, and Darren, and John, and Ted. There's a lot of the park area that is either underutilized or unusable in Pierre Marquette Park. Unusable, I would consider that in where the sinkhole is, and all that grass there. It's not really very user-friendly for anything. I know we have a wonderful Frisbee golf course. I think there's a lot of area in the park that we need to stop mowing. And we need to do that responsibly. And there may be an opportunity to plant some of those areas in native Missouri grasses and flowers. And I think there's also some challenges associated with that because of the type of grass that's already in most of the park, and it would be invasive to those species. That's an opinion. But there's an opportunity there to reduce the cost of maintaining the park without giving up any services in the park. For example, if it cost $1 a square foot to mow at the park, and we identified 20,000 square feet that we could plant into wild grasses or native species, the first year, that 20,000, we could take that $20,000 and do that planting project without any, it's just a line item shift, with no capital cost. And maybe that happens 4 years in a row. So in year 5, all of a sudden there's $80,000 we're not spending, and that's a fictitious number, but there's a chunk of money we're not spending any longer.
And wasting the time to...
The native grasses are there, the wildflowers are there. The park board meets regularly. Those folks are passionate about the parks and services they want to provide in the parks, and they have no authority. And when they make recommendations, there's no budget to accommodate their recommendations. It's a real challenge, right? So year 5, for example, we would have some money. And we may not want to give all that to the park board if it was $80,000. But we might want to create a budget, a discretionary spending budget for the park board to just exactly for slides and swings and playground equipment and those kind of things that those people think about and look at all the time, that Derek's looking at all the time as well. I mean, there's the potential for an opportunity to have a reduction in costs, but an increase in available usage of the park facility. Now, I don't want to go further on that and take everybody's time up in this meeting, but when we talked a little bit last week, we talked about being creative and looking at things differently and challenging, well, we've done it like this for 20 years, or we tried it 20 years ago, it didn't work. I think that's one of the things, there's opportunities, maybe we find a partner, SEMO or University of Missouri or one of the other universities in the neighborhood to work on us on a project like that. And that would create some money out of the budget for capital improvements. You know, unfortunately, as budgets get tighter, Parks and Rec is usually one of the first things that gets beat up. You know, it's one of the first places you draw available monies from. And $28,000 for capital improvements. You know, we've identified a real significant issue with sidewalks in the downtown area. We've had people get injured. And we talked about at this table how we don't have any budget money to fund that project of fixing all these sidewalks and planting these trees. So we don't have the money to do that. That we have all agreed is a public safety issue, to buy park benches and flagpoles right now and not get some of those other projects done. I just have a hard time being behind that. Do I agree that we want those things? Of course. We want a lot of things. But I think it'd be challenging to defend a position where we put benches and things at any park while we sit here and say we don't have the money to fix the sidewalks. You know, and that's all I'm going to say about it, but that's just, Parks and Rec seems to be one of the first places that really takes significant hits when you're looking at budgets. And I don't want to hit Parks and Rec real hard, but at the same time, any capital expenditures to a challenged budget environment, pretty tough to get past, pretty tough to get through. So I promised myself I'd try not to talk too much tonight, so I'll try my best not to keep talking.
All right. Good point.
But that would also free up time for you guys to help out the street department and to, get other projects done without,
Well, I don't think we'd have a problem coming up with
It's time to do that.
before the budget. No, I think we can We could come up with a recommendation on what areas of the park could be potentially planted.
Let's
Now, the
identify.
literature on native species, I mean, it's all over the place. We don't have a problem figuring out what to plant.
I just think the park has lost its appeal, its curb appeal. It's just a bland
Most
grass for soccer and.
Lots of people look at native areas that have been kind of restored with native species, and they go, why don't they cut their grass?
Well, you can do wildflowers too and different things that would.
Yeah, they're not the most attractive in kind of a pedestrian eye.
This may not be the right idea at the right time, but it's something to look at. And what drives my thought process is to create money for capital improvements. To not spend our money where it's not being utilized, but get to a point where we can spend our money where we can create better playgrounds for children, and we can create, it's hard to have an event in the park because there's limited parking, and address some of those challenges with these funds that we figured out how to save. And when you're looking at doing a cost-benefit analysis on something like that, or even a detailed cost analysis, don't want to take the labor out, because we don't want not to have the labor. We just want to be able to utilize the labor other places.
All right, well, I'll tell you, we'll definitely evaluate that before you have to make a decision.
Sorry, Carl.
What's that?
Any other questions?
I want some benches.
How many employees do you have?
I have one full-time and one part-time.
On your on your personnel, 5,004 employee insurance, did you have more workers back? Well, 2013, you had 45,813. This year proposed is 24,301.
Yes, John PQ recently went down to part-time, so he is no longer eligible for insurance or benefits from the city.
Well, he just said this.
Is there much use for tennis courts anymore? It used to be big 20, 30 years ago. I mean, softball was big up in the park there when the men's had their 16 team, and now there's...
Well, when they
There
have
is no-
hockey, a lot of them play hockey.
Well,
up
yeah, I
there.
see more of them go up there and practice hockey than tennis.
There's a lot of people playing tennis up there during the days. A lot of high school kids and either older people.
Even that's kind of a chicken and egg problem. Lots of people don't because of the condition of the court, so you don't know kind of what the demand is based on.
Yeah, it's rough to play on.
So Darren, under your additional requests not included in these totals, do you have them in order of what you feel are the most important?
No, I just had those down. The most important to me is the walking trail and the tennis courts. Then the fences on South and Leon's are getting very bad. And
Is this replacement or repair on those fences?
those are replacement of the fences.
Are they wooden?
No, they're metal.
They-
Chain link.
So it would be necessary to replace all of it? Or is it that bad, or
It's bad.
is it?
Most of our poles that are holding up the fence are rusted through at the base, which is normal from wet conditions.
Been there a long time.
They've probably been, just a guess, 40 years maybe, because I remember as a kid playing up there and having chain link fence. We just replaced the backstops on all the fields, except Yanks North. The Yanks replaced that themselves, but we did it on Betty's, Leon's, and Yanks South last year. And we had to do that because of safety issues. They were just, we had baseballs going through the fence.
Not good.
No, so
We
we,
had people, didn't
yeah,
we? One?
maybe once.
I think I heard something.
So the city gets reimbursed by somebody for using these fields? There's $1,000 in baseball fees under revenue.
That is $500 from the St. John baseball and $500 from St. John softball teams.
Is that community center?
No,
No?
no. We get $17,500 from the county to maintain the fields, help maintain the fields.
Is that what that goes, supposed to be, or what?
County payment.
Somebody questioned that, what that money goes to, say, define parking lots and what?
The 17.5?
Yeah.
That was just, maybe Lauren can answer that one better than me. The 17.5 from the county, what, does that go for it?
It goes in,
It's supposed to go far.
Does it go in general
Somebody
revenue?
questioned with me and asked me,
Well,
they thought it
it's
went
our-
towards
it's-
a parking lot.
it's not a matter of going for it, it's there.
There's a parking lot up there.
It goes into the general fund to compensate for the money we spend maintaining their fields. So the $109,000 that we transfer out of the general fund is being replenished by $17,500 from the county for taking care of their fields.
So it's minimum.
It's all, so for years gone by that the county didn't participate
So it's not earmarked.
with the use of, the county people using the ball field and the city maintained.
Yeah,
But now that's been resolved and that's where the money,
that's the justification for their.
They're making up for
make the
lost time.
contribution.
Who mows the grass down on 3rd Street on those ball fields?
We do,
And those are owned by the VFW?
yes.
We
The only thing
we
the
lease them
Yeah.
You lease
for
them?
a dollar.
city owns is a skate park, and that was donated by Mr. Marler.
Why do we lease the ball field?
Who plays on it?
Corey, when you
Always have.
River Dogs.
River Dogs, mainly, yes.
But that's what I'm saying, is why do we lease it and take care of it when,
The DFW owns it?
I think the
River Dogs pay on
DFW
it?
got to a point where they really couldn't support that financially, but obviously there is use there, and the city stepped in and leased it to do the maintenance, provide the field for anybody that wants to use it. I don't think there's
yeah, but
any.
they play big games on that field. And you guys have to do a lot of work on that field, don't you?
Yes, well,
Yeah.
they take care of the fields during
But you
the,
take care of the grass and
we take care of the
and the
grass,
levee and
yes.
everything else.
Yes.
And this is a terrible thing to bring up. Who does the concessions down at the ball fields? Does the county own that,
That's
city own
community
that?
The city owns Yanks North, which is taken care of by the Yanks organization. Leon's is taken by the community center and the girls softball. And when the River Dogs play the tournament, I think they furnish their own workers for that and their own stuff.
Well, that big tournament they had here about a month ago, that profit went to the community center?
The River Dogs?
No, that went to the River Dogs, didn't it?
That went to the River Dogs. The community center gets summer league concessions.
I know they were using Leon's field and down J.C.'s. I think they used the Bloomsdale field. There were teams from different states that were,
That was the River Dogs.
Okay.
Yes. They have 2 a year.
And I don't know that the River Dogs got the concessions off. I would think the Yanks probably got the concession. Now, they had their own. They were selling food and stuff. I believe the River Dogs had some of their own set up, did they not?
had
They usually sell
set up,
some
they had,
food. But the Yanks probably took the concessions off the big field, and didn't the community center probably take it off of Leon's?
No,
No.
the River Dogs had it on
Okay.
Leon's. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
because I talked to Brian at the community center, and that weekend, they don't
They didn't
eat
do it,
nothing
okay.
there. And I think the River Dogs, I could be wrong, but I think the River Dogs worked the concession stand on Big Yanks. But I could be wrong there, Mayor.
You might be
I
right.
think they
wasn't
had their
okay.
own people come in,
I wouldn't, yeah. I
but
wasn't.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
It just seems like a lot of work for somebody else.
So, looking at the 2013 adopted budgets, 206, and that's just basically the same for 2014 proposed. And at 9 months into 2013, we're at 102, and that's, Martin, is that what you're talking about, having to bring the general fund money, transfer in to make up, we got 3 months left, and,
In terms of revenue?
yeah,
Yes,
that's what you were talking about.
yeah. We'll spend, maybe not the entire budget, you know, and we'll be $100,000 and some short of park tax revenue to cover our operating expense.
Gotcha.
What's the 2,500 under contract labor?
That would be for, if we have trees like at Valley Springs that are close to the building that we cannot take down safely ourselves.
So you're
We have to-
anticipating you're gonna need that?
We might not need that much. This year, we had 3 different trees we had taken down because they're either real close to power lines or buildings. So it's one of those,
If they're close to power lines, can citizens do that?
citizens won't do that.
They won't, even if they're close to power lines?
Unless
The only
they're
term it's-
interfering with the power lines itself, they will not, their policy is not to mess with them. Because we have some on buyout properties, I asked them before if they would remove the tree, and they said
All they'll do is trim them back.
they'll trim it back, and then it's the property owner's responsibility to take the tree down, dispose of it.
Wouldn't you be better off letting them trim it and then get somebody else to do the rest?
Let them trim it way back,
Yeah.
way
Now,
back.
now we're talking, we're spending our time talking about $50 worth of tree trimming here.
Not $50.
2,500.
2,500.
Oh, excuse me, $2,500. We got bigger issues, I think, than who's
I
gonna
mean,
trim
there's
the
also,
trees
you know,
and-
like if
or
we
our
need some
guys
other
training and all
services
these
that we
other
can't do.
things. I got no problem with hiring contract labor to trim trees.
I don't
if
have a
Darren
problem with
thinks
that
he
either, I
needs to
just
do it.
asked what it was for. I
Right,
didn't
we-
know what it was for, it didn't say. It just said contract labor.
Well, we could probably take that back some.
I just asked what it was.
Yeah,
It wasn't
I
this
mean,
one.
okay, it's, you know, or stuff that we can't really do, that we have to have some outsider come in and do.
What's the assessor operation?
I do not know. That is,
What's the question?
Assessors.
Assessor operations,
Got 4,500, nobody knows what it is?
That goes,
page
It goes
29.
He
to
didn't,
the assessor for the
7126.
tax collector.
Yeah, the assessor's office, right?
that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
beyond me there.
Is that what we pay for having them collect their tax? Okay.
So we don't have to cover it.
Yeah.
Anything else for Darren?
I guess if you were asked to cut your budget another 7 to 10%, you should.
Honestly, no. Because I looked at it, and
Well,
what we have is, I wouldn't know where I could cut it back.
well, you cut 28,400
Well, I could
to
cut-
14,000.
We could cut that out.
Yeah.
The 28, that, which we usually don't get for infrastructure improvement, so, yes, we could cut that.
What was the 14 you were talking about, Martin?
That's 7%.
Oh, I see. So that's double that.
So there's $28,000 from last year to this year, from this year to next year. If you look, if the line items, I don't really worry about the line items. The bottom total expenditures for 2013 is 206, and the total expenditures for 2014 is 206, but 2014's got $28,000 extra dollars in it.
Yes, because John PQ's salary.
That's where that difference is.
That would make the difference
Got it.
from his salary and benefits.
Gotcha, thank you.
And plus, we also cut back some other line items also.
Now, at the very bottom of your budget, page 29 is 5 line items, additional expenses not included, and swimming pool removal. You've already got that 5,000, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay, from this year's budget.
Yes.
And I was going to ask you if you're going to get some help from the community center for the south fence and Leon's fence, but I guess the 17
Yes,
will
that's.
cover that. Let's talk about a new mower. Why do you need a new mower?
We have 2 of them with over 6,000 hours on it, on a diesel mower. John Deere told me before 3,000 is the max they ever heard. Really don't believe me that we have that many hours, and they're, putting a lot of money into them now. We have one more mower that has close to 5,000 hours on it. Then we have the newest mowers we have, which one of them has 2,000 hours on it, and the other one has 1,600 hours on it.
All right, so this was not a priority over the 28,400 for Main Street infrastructure improvements?
The 28,400 is what the park board recommended, what they wanted to do with the money.
All right,
And
so, but you don't really need a new mower?
we can use the new mower and get rid of the other ones, but if we had to, we can just keep repairing and doing what.
Darren, do you pretty well use them all?
At different times we do. I mean, when Dave has extra help, we get them and they mow. Or when one of our other mowers break down,
Sure. Okay.
we use them as backups.
And your buyout property, flood buyout,
Yes,
you mow everything as it would be in the park? Like this new mower for 17,000, if you were to buy it, you would mow everything, the park
we would mow everything we mowed.
buyout, other city property,
Other city
not
property.
counting buyout, not counting park.
Anything that we mow, it'd be used to mow.
Do we get funds for buyout? Does anybody know? To maintain buyout property? And how come we got rid of that? Does anybody know that?
Get rid of what?
We used to get funds for maintenance of buyout property.
I'm not familiar with that.
That's if they was owned by the state, right?
No, we used to get
We had a
funds.
separate line item for,
Sue could answer that, I'm sorry, I can't.
did we eliminate it a couple years ago?
We eliminated that, and put that all in the general fund.
Yeah, yeah.
So we are getting it.
We're not getting it from anybody else, we're just spending it, and the line item changed.
Yeah.
There was no tax or no income from it. It was just a line item.
I'll have Sue
Ask Sue.
have.
She
have a
knows, she
report.
knows. Okay, sorry I asked that question.
No, it's a good
Can you
question.
hear me, Carl?
That's what the street.
All right now.
Okay. Anything else for Darren?
All right,
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay. I passed around, this is other items. I got back from lunch today, this was sitting on my chair. Sheriff paid us a visit. That's this letter. And so I called the sheriff and asked him what it was. And he said this was submitted in spring of 2011, and it never, not sure what happened, and I wasn't here, so I don't know what happened. And so I'm representing this to you. at his request. This is authorized by state statute for cities and counties to make it part of their court charges a $2 fee surcharge that goes to the inmate security fund. When I asked the sheriff what that was used for, he said it's used for certain equipment, like he's got this electronic fingerprint device, and he's got electronic device, it's like a reverse ATM where people can come in and put money on deposit for inmates to use in the commissary. It's used for indigent inmates who don't have any family to support them, to buy toiletries and the things that they need for their personal care. There are a limited number of things for which it can be used. It can't be used for general law enforcement. It has to be used for things that they can either relate to the inmates' security or their well-being. And I didn't know if it has been discussed among the board when it was presented back in March, or...
What kind of action are you looking for?
Well, if you
Pass an ordinance.
think this is something that we need to do, we would have to adopt an ordinance that would put it on the books.
Can we ask Eric some questions?
That'd be the way to go then.
Are you familiar with this inmate security fund?
Vaguely, I remember when it came up.
Do you need to read it?
Yeah.
Fairly familiar. It would be similar to like the LERF fund, the Law Enforcement Restitution Fund, or some similar program. You just tack on an additional fine, but that money would be guaranteed to that particular fund. As I reported when it came up initially, the Sheriff's Department doesn't charge us now to house our inmates.
He reminded me of that.
Yeah, and we have a great relationship, and I mean, that could be a pretty substantial expense that we're fortunate enough to not have to expend, so.
You know, it's not money that the city has to spend out of its revenues. It comes from the people who go through the court system, and our only
Is that for
obligation.
traffic tickets, lawn tickets?
I believe so.
Anything that goes through the court?
Anything that would assess court costs.
Right.
So aside from the fine, you know, we would add the $2 to our court cost, is my understanding. And then there are certain things already that, you know, if the court cost is $5, you know, $1 goes here, $2 goes here, and $3 goes here, so. I know my math was horrible there, so I apologize. I caught that at the last second, but.
Anyway.
Right. So, like City Administrator Toma said, it's not coming out of our budget. I mean, I would certainly be in support of it if that is required.
I'd be in support of it.
Me too.
There's no objection, we'll have.
What, Frank, say anything? Frank?
I just got it this afternoon,
Oh, okay.
and so I thought I'd bring it up in this environment before I have a conversation with him.
All right.
And now I'm going to tell you about something that Frank and I have discussed. If we're through with this? Okay. We received a notice that the Attorney General had written an opinion, and this is on a city administrator's report, and I'm going to take the opportunity to cover it now. There is a statute that provides for cities, well, it says counties, to collect, similar to this, as part of their court costs, $7 from each litigant that goes to the sheriff's retirement fund. Not our, I don't know anything about sheriff's retirement fund. But the question was, should we be doing it in light of the Attorney General's opinion? And if we're not going to do it, do we need to take some action to tell the world we're not doing it? I don't have answers to those questions at this point. The municipal judge is doing some research. It may be that he needs to issue an order saying we're not going to collect it. The city attorney is working with him to clarify the issues. you know, to me, I asked Frank, I said, well, you know, why would we have to pass a resolution to say we're not going to do what we haven't been doing? But there's no court order, there's no official state action that mandates this. It's just the Attorney General's opinion that we should be collecting it. And it hasn't been, and lots of cities aren't doing it. And I don't know how many are. So I've got to call into the municipal league to find out what they know about it. So this is something that we may be talking about in the future, one way or the other. Or if we determine we really don't need to do anything, I won't bring it up again.
Didn't you say the county was doing it, but it didn't say city, it said county?
Yeah, see, in the statute, there's a provision that anytime the word county is used, it also means city. So that's what the Attorney General is relying upon.
Well, that's a lot.
$7.
Per transact, per.
Maybe we can get that for other
Fine.
things that might benefit us.
But see, what he said was, and this is the other thing.
Get the parks some more
He's
money.
basing his decision on the conclusion that the cases handed by municipal court are civil in nature, because it goes to these civil suits. And we're sitting here saying, wait a minute, our fines are $100 or to $500 a day, or a year in prison. I mean, how can you say that's not criminal? So there are all these issues that just nobody quite has a handle on.
How about an update?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know about it.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it. It may come up again. If not, forget you ever heard about it. But I have a feeling we're going to be talking about it again.
The only thing a lot of them's gonna yak about is, it was mentioned, that was the Walmart of the county, and a lot of people's gonna kind of gripe about that $7 and.
What's the Walmart again?
The comment was made once before that the jail up there was the Walmart of St. Genevieve.
Well, the money doesn't go. That money doesn't go to the prison. That money goes into some retirement fund at the state.
I think if you ask the county commission, they will tell you that they certainly make money off of the jail. There's no
The
question.
state inmates and
Federal inmates.
federal inmates.
Federal.
Yeah, federal
More power
inmates.
to them.
Yeah.
Actually, I've heard
We might ought
the
to
presiding
go-
commissioner make that very same statement.
We could kick out Kinsky and redo that jail down there.
Chambers old, right?
Okay,
Oh, there's
that's
no
all that I
bars.
have for the work session.
Somebody took out the bars.
We have 15 minutes to relax and enjoy yourself.
Oh, relax.
Go have a non-civil.
He's gonna be standing anyway when he gets home.
Okay, please stand for pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Pam.
Mayor Grimminger?
Here.
Alderman Couch?
Here.
Alderwoman Zerwig?
Here.
Alderman John Stupi?
Here.
Alderman Jokers?
Here.
Alderman Donnie Stupi?
Here.
Alderman Okenthus?
Here.
Alderman Ross?
Here.
Alderwoman Broomfield? Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Move to.
Second.
Sean, Cole. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Go right into the city administrator's report.
Okay, you may have noticed that work at Porter Street began and then stopped.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. At least they didn't have a date on it.
They were back today. They got the pipe in today on the highway end. They got to wait. Missouri Natural Gas has to lower a line. They needed a couple of fittings. They've got those fittings. They'll be in Monday to do that. So weather permitting, they should be making continuous progress from now on. It has been kind of a weird couple of weeks in terms of weather for August. Tom Nelke's the guy with Citizens Electric who was working on identifying what trees to put in, and he found this tree selector program, which you put in your soils and the shape of the tree you want and the size and drainage data, and it tells you what tree to plant. And you also put in where your location is, because it's, and so we're looking at using that to come up with the recommendations on what we do with the street trees. It was, that I met with the people from both the UP and the Burlington Northern. It was in the paper. I think we talked about it. I haven't heard back from anybody yet as to what they're going to do. But I also, Ronnie Inman committed to get hold of the property owners whose property we have to cross in order to maintain the drainage from those culverts. But I did, however, send an email to the new contacts that we have with the UP, because we've got problems with they're not maintaining the right-of-way for weeds. And you don't worry about it a whole lot, except where it's in residential areas. There's no reason why they shouldn't have to adhere to the same standards that other property owners adhere to. And particularly if you go down 10th Street there by Built Best, you'll notice some pretty high stand of weeds that they really haven't done anything with. Now, the last time I dealt with them on this, we got them to do something. First they spray, and then we said, it's okay to spray, but you need to spray when they're cut. And right now you need to remove the growth and then maintain it. So I'll keep working on that.
Is that something we can go ahead and do? I mean, we did it up on 4th Street 3 or 4 times. We mowed grass up there. It was even actually out in the county.
Yeah, can we?
Yeah.
Sure. But we run the risk of going on railroad right-of-way, which, they're very jealous of their right-of-way.
Is it, and I know that you're talking about a hazard at that intersection?
Yeah, and it's, breeding ground for snakes and rodents.
Can
and
you just give us permission
mosquitoes.
to light it and burn it all?
Let me see if I can just get permission.
It is bad.
They have oil on them.
Because I'm sure if we, if we considered a hazard at that intersection, we should go in and mow it, or at least get that intersection where you can see around it. I mean, there's obviously not a whole lot of traffic there.
Right there by Bill Best, there at the railroad tracks.
Goes up the lawn, you can't see.
And then if you go South Gabbery, back where the houses are, same thing. They don't maintain that either. And those are really the two
Even
kind
if they're on
of
4th Street, they
areas that are in close proximity to houses that they just don't do anything with.
Bad, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that call tomorrow.
Safety hazard, we need to just address it, and they can be a little upset about the right of way if they need to be.
Well,
and then we should take some type of action for them not maintaining the right of ways.
In the past, the city attorney, who is certainly free to speak for himself, has suggested that before we take such action, that we get the mayor to declare an emergency situation, and we're going on somebody's property under that declaration. Which, I guess that could apply to railroad property as well as it does individual property. Problem is, I don't, you can't bill the cost to them the way we do for people who are in the city paying taxes. I had it here that we met with Layton, and we were supposed to meet with Layton yesterday, but they had to reschedule it, so I don't really have anything to report on that. We got the deeds between the Archdiocese and the city exchanged and recorded. So we now own both halves of the entrance road to the cemetery. And we've been using it for however many years they've been using it.
You need to do ordinances accepting and authorizing the conveyance of those deeds.
Oh, really? Okay.
You can do it retroactively.
We're going to have to.
Was there any more discussion as far as the roadway and that was discussed along the drainage area and the drainage?
It was proposed to me by a member of the Finance Committee that, we had submitted them some options, that we put together kind of a formal letter of consideration for what's called option A, and that's where the road right-of-way is closest to following the creek, and so I'm doing that, and I will have that to him. Okay. Basically, they said, the price would be dependent on an appraisal. The actual acreage would be subject to a survey, which is pretty normal. They wanted kind of a timetable, which I can give them for the work that we're going to do with the grant and TIF funds. Now, a timetable for the eventual development of the road, obviously, we don't know.
Right.
But they're most concerned about getting the connection from the parking lot to Parkwood, so that would be part of the original project. So I think we can propose that all of that would be done within 12 months, and so I'll send that in to probably tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's all I have to report.
Question, anybody? All right, Steve, you're...
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. Most things in the report we discussed in the meeting last month. If I could ask you a question.
I noticed your inspection of the wastewater plant went very well.
The DNR inspection on June 5th went extremely well. There's no bad findings or no deviations from DNR, and no recommendations at this time.
Well done.
Thank you.
You know, the one on the maintenance and repair, you talked about, that's Station 2. You're going to put the screen has been ordered and it will be installed. Has that been installed, or have you received it yet?
Yeah.
For the area where the cloth is getting, the materials are getting into the...
Yeah, the screen was ordered and installed, it was installed last Monday, and there has not been one call out since. And every morning we pull the screen and remove the debris from it. We're saving it for further use.
Here's something I'd like that maybe Steve can comment on. On the Main Street Bridge over the North Creek, we were having some deterioration problems. The concrete was falling. And you recall, we purchased this sprayer, concrete spraying gun. It's like gunite for sewer repairs. And so we use that to do a repair. And while it's not the same as forming up concrete, it looks pretty good. And we're going to kind of monitor it to see. I think it'll be fine. And my only concern has to do with when we have some freeze-thaw cycles, what's going to happen to it. But hopefully it'll hold up. And that was a pretty inexpensive solution to a problem using equipment that wasn't exactly designed for that purpose. But I guess you were there when they were doing it.
Yeah. With the deterioration of the sidewalk, you're unable to use concrete because of the gravel, the rocks in the concrete. This material just has fibers in it, so there's no gravel at all. So you can spread it very, very thin or as thick as needed. So a skim coat on that sidewalk helped out quite a bit.
So could you set up forms and make sidewalks?
This material needs to be sprayed,
So you could fix the sidewalks.
Well, you're fixing the spalling of the sidewalk. It doesn't have any structural strength, so you can't use it to make a sidewalk.
Yeah, but you could fix the...
Surface.
There you go, new job for Steve.
Yeah.
Anything else for Steve? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
And committee reports?
P&Z met, we had the issue with the
would be, it was an internet business for a car dealership, and he had everything pretty well in line except for his location was at his home. And it's on 4th Street near where Shauna lives actually, Mr. Carlisle. Anyway, there had to be, they checked with the state patrol and he had to have like a 3x5 sign, and I think they're prohibited because of landmarks.
No, actually, our sign ordinance in the city codes says a home occupation signage can't exceed 2x2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna get to, that 2x2 was the maximum, but that was something that he had to have for his business. So it was a unanimously denied by the P&Z. Look, Tom was one of the folks, and actually Martin was the chair that night. So, if you guys got anything to add?
I mean, John can address this, but is there any auction now that doesn't use the internet, have internet bidding?
They all use it.
They all use it. So this wasn't really that unique of an approach. It's kind of what people are doing now anyway.
But the only thing was, it was in his home.
Well, yeah.
He had to have special.
Where are you going to store the cars? What's the problem?
Yeah, special use permit.
Unloading cars off transport, reloading them, people
Yeah.
come to inspect them, and the sign. That was really the that in that part of town, a 3x5 foot sign to meet the minimum requirement for an auto dealer. That was really, I think the P&Z board felt that was very inappropriate, as well as safety hazards and traffic hazards on 4th Street.
Yeah, it's already narrow.
And I certainly hope that Mr. Carlisle pursues his business opportunity in a different area here in town.
Been called by at least one citizen who said, I've got to make a logical welcome to you. I think he's got issues.
I think he was more parts though, wasn't he gonna do more parts?
It was cars.
It was cars.
But that was also part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
The neighbors were consulted, and
There were two neighbors spoke, or one neighbor spoke, and he had concerns about traffic and on an already busy 4th Street and hours of people coming to and from.
Yeah, the special use permit, well, any zone change, so which a special use permit is what requires the notification of the
so
adjacent property.
there was two neighbors that
There was one neighbor that spoke.
The gentleman on the corner?
2 were here.
Yeah, 2 were here, 1 spoke.
Okay, I see.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, I wish you would.
Okay, then we'll go to minutes of July the 25th.
Move approval.
Second.
Gotcha.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, old business, bill number 3931, second reading.
An ordinance approving a budget amendment to the City of St. Genevieve fiscal year 2013 budget relating to the general fund number 10, department number 16, police.
Yes, sir.
Was the Ford truck, is that included in this? Or is that coming in next year's?
No, that should be in this.
It's not, Eric will address.
It's not included, that was basically outlined.
Is this the second or first? Second reading.
That budget amendment was already done previously to move other funds into that line item. This is just, my understanding, and Sue's not here, but this is with the capital purchase of vehicles, even though we were just budgeted the payment amount. This was just incorporating that to show the actual value of the cars versus what our payment was.
It doesn't change anything except it capitalizes the lease value, and the accountant required us to do it.
It's just an accounting function.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Did that answer your question? Okay, roll call?
Alderman Couch.
Yes.
Alderwoman Zerwig.
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers. Alderman Donnie Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Okenthus.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderwoman Broomfield. 8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 3931 now becomes ordinance 3872.
Okay, thank you. Bill number 3932, second reading.
An ordinance approving a budget amendment to the City of St. Genevieve fiscal year 2013 budget relating to the general fund number 10, department number 14, building.
Move to approve.
Second.
Back on that second. Okay, roll call?
Alderwoman Broomfield. Alderman Okenfuss.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Donnie Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Couch.
Yes.
Alderwoman Zerwig.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 3932 now becomes ordinance 3873.
Okay, thank you. Bill number 3933, second reading.
An ordinance approving a budget amendment to the City of St. Genevieve fiscal year 2013 budget relating to the debt service fund number 50.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman John Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Donnie Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Okenfuss.
Yes.
Alderwoman Zerwig.
Yes.
Alderman Couch.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderwoman Broomfield. 8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 3933 now becomes ordinance 3874.
Thank you. Bill number 3934, second reading.
An ordinance approving a budget amendment to the City of St. Genevieve fiscal year 2013 budget relating to the general fund number 10, department number 13, administration.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Alderman Okenfuss.
Yes.
Alderman Couch.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderwoman Zerwig.
Yes.
Alderwoman Broomfield. Alderman John Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Donnie Stupi.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 3934 now becomes ordinance 3875.
Okay, thank you. New business, bill number 3935, first reading.
An ordinance creating a disorderly conduct offense.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Second reading tonight if we can.
We need to do a second reading on this, so it's in place for dirt pit.
Okay, we gotta vote
I
on
don't know
it.
what's going to happen.
Any questions on the first reading? Then all in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move for second reading.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, second reading?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, second reading, bill number 3935.
An ordinance creating a disorderly conduct offense.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Alderman Donnie Stupi.
Yes.
Alderwoman Broomfield. Alderman Couch.
Yes.
Alderwoman Zerwig.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Alderman John Stupi.
Just reading something.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Carl Okenfuss.
Carl. Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no's. Bill number 3935 now becomes ordinance 3876.
Okay, thank you. Public comments, anyone? Yes, sir, Mr. Weiner. Sure. Short meeting so far.
Like Keith Petty's crutches. Mayor, City Administrator, Board of Aldermen, my name is Carl Weiner. I live at 1158 Valley Spring Trail. First of all, I want to say this. I have a lot of respect for Chief Bennett, and I'll support him any way I can. But something came to my attention, and I'd like to get an answer on this. I was up by the County Health Center, turned in some things to them, and I came out and I noticed a patrol car sitting behind 911 station up there in a row of cars. It didn't dawn on me at the time, but I got a call. Somebody said that this particular patrol car was sitting there hidden away.
So today, I went back up there, and you had to drive back down in the row of cars to spot this police car. Now, is there a reason why we're hiding a police car? I know there's a reason for it, but I'd like to know what the reason is.
Can we ask Chief Bennett to come up?
I would, if Chief Bennett has the reason why, I appreciate an answer for it.
Yeah.
Like I say, I support it.
Oh, I know. I don't think it's...
Thank you for your time.
We've reported in the last several staff meetings, I do have a couple of officers that are out on an extended leave in an effort to one, not necessarily advertise how many officers we do have on the road or not have on the road at that time. We asked Felix Myers, that is a car that's actually in service, it's on the road right now. It's just the officer, instead of parking it here at the office, is parking it there. I don't necessarily want to advertise again how many officers we have and how the scheduling works, but in an effort to avoid, I lost an officer that quit. I have 2 officers that are out sick, and just with our changing schedule, there were times that there were several patrol cars sitting out here. We'd have issues with City Hall parking, and honestly, it was off-putting for some people seeing that many cars, and gave the illusion that we have a lot more of a fleet and a lot more personnel than we have. So for a number of reasons, I've placed one there and just asked that the officer pick it up there instead of coming here to the office to save some parking and save the appearance of a car lot here at City Hall. So it's certainly not hiding any cars. It's just keeping.
My concern about this is if you have 10 automobiles, all right, police cars, whatever you want to classify them as, and everybody knows there's 10, but all of a sudden you don't see that many here, then they know somebody's missing.
Well, not necessarily. The officers.
If you set a police car out on the street as to give the impression that there's somebody there watching you speed or what, and people slow down. But if you got one hidden somewhere else where nobody can see it, it ain't doing much good.
Well, and I understand that, and I see the reasoning.
But
yeah.
it was brought
We've
to my
also,
attention
there have been cases of cars getting vandalized once people realize that it's just a ploy out there to try to
I
trick
thought maybe
people.
you might have been up there having donuts with the sheriff department.
Mr. Ritter, why do you think the citizen chose to call you instead of calling City Hall?
Well, they thought maybe I'd stir up a little trouble.
Well,
and I listen, I ain't afraid to stir up trouble.
No, we
well,
know that.
and also the officers that we have that live in the city do have the benefit of a take-home vehicle, which is governed under our policies and procedures. So there wouldn't necessarily be 10 cars here at one time ever.
That car's not taken home up there.
Right. And he lives out of the city.
Back there 911 hidden.
Right. Well, not hidden, just stored. There again, it's a vehicle that's still in service. It's one of our officers that is still scheduled and working his regular rotation. So instead of it sitting here at the office, it's sitting there at an office to free up parking space and to try to minimize somewhat the people that can put 2 and 2 together and say, well, you know, if there's 9 police cars sitting here, then there's only 1 guy on, or if there's 8 patrol cars sitting here, then there's 2 people on. This way, if we can try to keep some of that concealed, it would help us. I mean,
And there's a camera on that car as well, isn't there? Don't they have cameras out there?
They do.
Parking lot cameras, so.
So it's certainly not completely an effort to hide any cars. I mean, we're an open book. We have 10 patrol cars. That's what the city has paid for. We have 10 officers, so I mean, I'm not stockpiling cars, trying to build up my fleet anymore. I just don't want to advertise my schedule any more than I
So you don't go up there
to.
sometime and find it stripped down.
Well, like she said, there are cameras on it. So, and again, it's with the emergency management director, Mr. Myers' permission to park it there. But there again, I see your concern, and It certainly won't be an issue after tonight. So I've already addressed that with the officer, and it's going to be parked back down here, so.
In the
Do what
Chief
you gotta
Bennett's
do.
defense, the
Like I
FBI
said,
does not disclose all their information
Yeah.
on
Like I
public
said, I'll
TV.
support you the way I can.
Oh, and I know, and like I said,
I know.
I'm
You're gonna
happy
have to
to
move it
answer.
now.
I'm happy to answer anything that you have.
But I know she hadn't started one yet.
He's gonna have to move it.
That's good.
So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Thank you. Okay, other business?
I got one small thing.
Okay.
Approached by a business owner in the downtown area to ask if there could be some small public restroom that way signs, because they still got a lot of people that don't know about Main Street Park and the public restrooms, just to generally direct them from, say, Market or Merchant Street into the direction of the public restrooms. Be at a very low cost, wouldn't take much time.
Well, we are putting up that "You Are Here" sign outside the courthouse that has the restroom locations
Think that'll
on it. I mean, I don't know if it addresses their concern.
Well-
If you get to Market and Main Street, you're at the visitor center, so I guess we could put a sign outside the visitor center.
This business is closer to Merchant Street.
I think something around Merchant Street, because, I mean, there's a lot of people that gather around that area. And if they knew that a sign pointed down to the Main Street Park, that there's restrooms there, or and one pointing towards the visitor center, if you're sitting there, you have no idea where to go to the restroom. At that corner. If you're down a block, a couple blocks down, well, you know the visitor center or the other way.
Okay.
Did your defense, is this, we gotta do this?
Yeah, we gotta do that. Yes.
I've been approached by a few people. What's the deal with Dollar General?
They're waiting for
They're
that
asking
land to
me.
settle there, aren't
Huh?
they? They're waiting for all that to settle before they pour their concrete.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, they got a building permit.
Yeah.
They got a building permit? Okay.
They could have done what they've already done without.
First, we gave them, we did it a two-step process, so they could get started. We gave them a grading permit before we got the building plans. So they got in and got all their grading done, but the plans hadn't been finalized yet. So there was that kind of lag time between the grading and the construction, but they have their permit.
Yeah, I couldn't understand because evidently that's not the first rodeo for that company, putting up buildings if they put all the rest of them up. They put one up in Perryville, Peebly, Farmington.
I'm not aware of any problem on that project.
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't have any, I mean, we don't have any problem.
No.
That we're holding them up. Anything else?
I have something too. Lorraine Stang approached me about the song Dear Old St. Genevieve that was written by Bill Simon, asking if the mayor would like to do a proclamation making that our city's official song.
Sing a proclamation.
You gotta sing it though.
Sing it, yeah.
Go ahead.
He's going to be,
Believe me, they wouldn't want it then.
Bill Simon actually passed away last year, and they wanted to get this done before that happened. His sons will be here next month because he's going to be honored at the Hall of Fame at the Valley St. John game.
Okay.
And she was asking if something could be done along that line.
Somebody wants to, sure, we would need an ordinance doing that, wouldn't we?
We do a
Or a
resolution on
resolution.
Yeah.
If that's all right with everybody?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
That's right with
I'll
all
make a
you.
motion.
I'll make a motion.
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Well, you may want to adopt a resolution and present it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have it on your next agenda,
Can't you do it later this evening?
if you want to hang around.
Well,
Okay.
his sons will be here next month, and she was hoping that
We
we
can
could
get
have
it done
something
before then.
done.
Yeah,
Sure.
And the muni band plays it all the time anyway, so
Okay.
that's pretty neat song.
it is.
All right, if there's not, we've got one other item. Request from the Jur Defect Committee for street closures for this weekend. Asked to, as you can see, the downtown streets at Market and Second, Jefferson and Second, Merchant and Second, Main Street from the bridge at Gabourey to Washington, and all of Second Street from Market to Merchant.
Is there a change from last year?
Bill,
She said it was the same.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor, they
Yes.
also, I think they're looking for some volunteers yet for Saturday and Sunday.
Just in general to do whatever that needs to be done?
Yeah. They contact like Joan Knoll or
Okay. Joe Knoll or
probably Brenda Hayden.
Brenda Hayden?
Yeah.
Okay. Or Jamie, if they can't get a hold of them, I guess they could probably get Jamie up to Flash or at least get a hold of them. Okay, if there's nothing else, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, if you want to take...
Okay, what number are we on?
Page 15.
15?
This budget is about $600 less than last year's budget.
That's good.
Approved.
So I really have much to say, for me to say. I think, as you probably know, we actually haven't had this conversation yet, but last year we used money out of our reserves to cover the operating costs of the city. We're in the same situation this year, except our reserves are smaller because we used them. So the board is struggling with, how do we, if we want to maintain the same level of service, how do we do it? And we can't do it. What items do we need to look at to cut back so that we can come in with a balanced budget? And so far, we've identified a little here and a little there, but nothing that got us to the point where we need to be.
And just to tag on with that, we were getting the gist of that just through the normal channels. So as you can see, basically, we're really not asking for anything this year. Everything is pretty status quo. As a matter of fact, our current budget is probably going to look even more favorable, that we won't get to using what we have requested for last year. And if you don't mind, I'll go through a couple of those reasons why. We base a lot of our cost on what our needs are presently and what our history has been through past budgets. Some of the things you have control of, some of you don't. We're going to be very favorable on fuel this year. We didn't use as much fuel as we had in previous years. Repair and maintenance is going to be favorable this year. Quite frankly, that's due to our ladder truck being down, and we believe it's also due to the fact that we purchased 2 newer used vehicles last year and put those into service, so there's less maintenance on those newer vehicles. For some reason, natural gas is favorable. We've had, again, a historical thing is billing, repair, and maintenance. We're very favorable on that. Haven't used any contract labor this year. Travel and lodging is favorable. One of the biggest items that's favorable is education and training. And that's a double-edged sword there for the fact that we plan to put people through a firefighter 1 and 2 education program whenever they become members of the fire department. And as I think you've been seeing in some of my reports, we're still 3 folks down. So I had budgeted for those 3 folks to put those through an education class. Those cost us between $900 and $1,200 per student, depending on where we send them. So there's $2,700 to $3,600 that we didn't spend. We did put 1 person through firefighter 1 and 2, and we were $1,200 favorable there because we took advantage of some grant funding that the Mineral Area College had and offered that course free. So we were able to put that gentleman through firefighter 1-2 and got him certified as a firefighter this past year, free for nothing on that grant. So that was good. So this year's budget, I think you have something that says something like 62,700, and I think we're currently at about 72,000, but I don't believe we're going to hit that, what is it, 109 this year. So
We often talk at this table about the danger of, in budget process, of looking at last year's budget and expenditures and automatically adjusting just because you were able to save money.
Absolutely.
And that's for two reasons. One is last year isn't necessarily a predictor of next year, and two is you don't want to create an environment where people feel like they get towards the end of the fiscal year and they just have to spend money to preserve their budget.
Right.
So I think the board is sensitive to that. I think they appreciate your efforts and the efforts of every department that's tried to be efficient and effective and not spend more than they have to, and as a consequence, we've got a little more money in the bank than we had projected last year.
Well, and a lot of those things we don't have a lot of control of. How much fuel we spend, how much gas we're using at the firehouse,
16.
You know, how much we break or how much we have to fix at the firehouse. So those, I understand that.
What do you think the savings was on repairing that truck that day on the street? If it would have had to be, that was probably, you're probably looking at $1,000 if you'd had to have somebody come in and tow it and.
It would be easy, and I have to credit that to the kind of guys we have that were mechanically able to crawl under that thing and fix it, and to be able to find a part that day too.
Well, we were very fortunate, yeah.
You were under there, right?
I was under there.
So I got to get looking at it, but I don't know if he was turning wrenches, but he was pointing.
I was going to say, is that because of your mechanical?
I was actually shining the light.
Oh.
And
That's an
helping
important job.
Somebody's got to be
moral
pouring.
support.
Living a good life.
Well, questions, anybody?
Nick, I don't have any questions. I think that, as with Chief Bennett and Dave, and Darren, everybody's done, their work here. That it's just, as we look at ways to adjust our budget, I can't take away from public safety and good conscience. If there was waste, if there was something heavy there, I wouldn't have a bit of problem saying, listen, justify this. I don't see anything in your budget that appears to me to be heavy. So I guess I just don't have any questions.
Well, and to be real honest, we are conscious of just the explanation that Mr. Toma gave. If it's not there and we don't have to spend it, we're not going to spend it. Now, typically, too, just because of how our fiscal year falls, in the fall of the year, myself and other folks tend to start doing some holiday stuff, doing some hunting, and then you get into the holidays. So a lot of our capital expenditures don't come until the last half of the year, which some people could construe as using that money, use it or lose it. Because you'll see a lot of my capital spending this time of the year and getting those things taken care of. But we'll be looking pretty favorable this year.
And we still need three more.
We have three positions available, yes.
And there's something now with the free class for 1 and 2?
Actually, there is another, they extended that grant,
Yeah.
so if we had a person this year, we could get that. And that's a pretty extensive program. I mean, that's a semester and a half of every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every Saturday, taking classes and getting certified. I think one program starts in January and runs way past May, so it's a pretty big commitment for somebody to do that. So for us, I mean, if you want to commit to that, I think we are going to pay for that because we're going to end up with a certified firefighter. And I'll even allow him to take a vehicle and give him the clothing on his back and all that to do that. I think that's only fair, because we come out on the end of that, just tremendous. That's
Small investment for the return.
absolutely.
That's pretty intense, that's 1 and 2 firefighters.
No, I'm too busy to volunteer. I'm already.
As a
I saw
matter of-
Shauna shaking her head, though.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got a set of gear that would fit you right now.
What are you saying?
You don't want to fit Sean.
I'm just saying, I got big boy clothes. Sorry.
Did you see me running up the ladder? I'd be like,
Yeah, I might have to pass through.
Listen, I thank goodness for our volunteer fire department. Our department and the way it operates, I never hear a single complaint. All I hear is praise. The few times I've been able to be down at the firehouse, I've always been impressed by the condition of the equipment, the condition of the training, and to me that's really the really big important part of it. You can buy all the equipment in the world, but if people aren't appropriately trained, it does no good. But I've talked with you about your training program, and like I said, I looked through the line items, nothing glares. The bottom line's the same. What we're going to be faced with eventually is, I'm going to ask Martin, this is our proposed budget as it sits. These are our anticipated revenues. What is the deficit that we would have to reach into our reserves to cover? How much money is that? And that gives us the target for the monetary target for our cuts. If we say we're going to blanket everybody 10%, every department 10%, well, I mean, that's really easy to say, and it's really easy to do. But what happens is there's 10% less services the city can provide for the citizens. And if that's the decision, then that's okay.
Yeah, but it also kind of makes these meetings irrelevant, because the whole purpose of these meetings is to get a sense of the priorities.
Yeah, that's my point, and that's really where I'm going, is that an across-the-board cut is a very easy way out of some very difficult decisions. I'm never going to be in favor of across-the-board cuts. I think we've got, if I was the king today of St. Genevieve, yeah, I have been, actually.
Of St. Genevieve.
I would balance the budget, and in doing so, give every employee of the city a 3% cost of living increase. And does that mean that I don't want better streets? Of course not. We all want better streets. To stand up and beat our chest and say, I want streets, is just ridiculous. Everybody wants streets. We got to find a way to pay for it. And if that way is to say, okay, we're going to reduce, cut every department's budget by 10% to get $170,000 for streets. If that's the decision, then that's the decision. But when we do that, we reduce the services by the city from every department that gets that 10% cut to the citizens. So that's the
Or
the
you
value.
reduce your savings, your security.
Well, and I'm not, that's not even on my list. I just don't think we need to do that. I mean, there are anticipated things that are always going to happen, and we have to have that reserve to cover that. And if we squander our reserve, I don't think anybody at this table is probably going to do that in their personal lives. In my business career, you don't squander any capital on hand. You very carefully plan on how to spend that. You don't use it just to cover operating expenses. So if we do a percentage across the board cut, the question there is the value we get in the relatively small amount of money that comes from that 5% cut, 10% cut, 5% is $85,000. But we cut 5% of the services we provide to the citizens to get that. So that's the question the board's got to answer. That's the philosophy that has to be adopted one way or the other, is that the direction we're going to take. And that's
Yeah, but the
That's where
thing
we're at.
is, we got some unknowns. We don't know what the carryover is from last year's budget, of how much money.
No, but we can, it's close enough to give you damn
Okay,
good
so
projection.
you're close enough as far as how much money is going to carry over from last year's budget.
I mean, there'll be slight differences, but nothing, I mean, this 400,000 is.
Plus, you were saying that you needed more money for insurance besides the carryover.
Our
Premiums went up, didn't they?
We don't know, but we only projected in what you have before you, a 10% increase. We knew there'd be an increase, we projected 10%. We're getting some indication, and I'd hope to have that information for you tonight, but we didn't get the meeting, that it's gonna be higher than that, at least for the health side of it. So, you know, we're looking at some options on that, and I just, you know,
Okay.
we need to
But what I'm saying,
look at some different markets,
there
look
are
at
some
different coverages, you know, trying to come up
figure
with
out
some
a
plan.
concrete budget. And the thing is that, I think it's something that needs to be discussed, is that can we set a percent, 3, 5, 7% or whatever, and, because we don't know what the departments can bear or not bear. You know, can they bear a 3% cut?
They can bear a 50%. They can bear a 50% cut if we tell them to cut 50%.
I know.
Yeah, that means
But we just lose 50% of the services to the citizens.
Well.
Now, if Martin can tell us to have a balanced budget, right, we need to reduce our proposed budget by $100,000. Then that's where it gets to the point where we should be now in these budget meetings, is to say, okay, we need $100,000. Dave, what can you do? Mick, what can you do? Eric, what can you do? Darren, what can you do? But we're having these meetings before we know, you know, and that's where we need to be.
And I agree with that. We've never sat down and said it.
But if you ask Dave, if you got a target number, and say, Dave, what can you do? Dave's gonna say, well, I can do anything you tell me. Here's the things that I would recommend. That's what the department head's job is.
Right.
And not for us to cherry pick his line items, oh, you don't need that, or you don't need that. Now, we may decide as a board that spraying for mosquitoes. There are a lot of citizens would be happy if we just quit doing that in the first place, right? There's get a lot of gripe about that. But that would be one of the things we would discuss then, to determine as a board, that's important, that's okay with us to cut that. But I think we gotta have that number to get to a balanced budget, what do we need? You know, compared to our proposed budget and our proposed revenues, what do we need to do? And if we're $10,000 either way, that's pretty daggone good, right? If we end up that way. And that's what I was saying earlier, like with the capital expenditures for the park board. Of course, we all want more stuff for the parks, but probably fixing the sidewalks has a bigger impact to the public than that. Some people are going to agree and disagree with that, but that's our decision-making process. Where's that money going to come from? But to do it now, when we really don't have a target, I don't know. And if you want to do a 5% across the board, I mean, that's a philosophical way to view a budget management. If you want to do across the board cuts, well, sir, we could decide to do that. I wouldn't vote for that because I just think that's a very bad budget management. And I also think that budget management by line item is not healthy because those line items can change. Tires, fuel, right? How do you know how much fuel you're going to need? How do you know how many tires you're going to need? You could blow 5 tires in 1 week and never replace another tire the rest of the year. So, I mean, the line items, if we get wrapped up on the line items, we got to be cautious doing that because there's really no value.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that we're going to tell the directors what to cut. I'm not saying that we're going to cut each line item. The issue is, are we going to have money to fix roads? And right now, as far as I know, we don't have any money.
Let's not worry about roads till we get our budget
No,
balanced.
because without roads, we've got to find $200,000
Before we ever
in the
get to
budgets
roads.
that are before you. Now, some of that can come out of not carrying over $400,000, because that's what this shows. You carried over $200,000 last year, and we're comfortable with that. although I think we said last year, that's the limit of our comfort level. And so, you know, we got money, almost twice that projected as carryover. So you got money that is projected to be available to you to spend for line items, and so I can balance this budget.
Yeah.
But what I can't do is capital improvements and balance this budget.
So that's where we're at. Are you willing to stay in do you want to have a balanced budget? That's way before getting to fixing one street.
But if you want to do a $30,000 street repair, it's got to come.
You can balance the budget, but there's nothing for capital improvements, in which I'm saying, I'd like to have some money for capital improvements.
Then the decision point is, from where does that come? That's what you need to decide.
But the thing is, the carryover is from them saving money from previous years. So if I could ask Nick right now and say, can you take a 10%, then he can look at that budget and say, I'll be under that budget. I'm going to be under this budget this year.
Not if he's a good manager. He'd never say that because he has too many unknowns.
They all turn in money. The chief is under budget.
Well, then we're doing a poor job managing our budget.
Well, and you're
And that's where that carryover comes
and you're
from.
creating that
carryover
that environment where next year, I guarantee you, he's not going to be under budget.
Right. Okay, I mean,
Because he won't try anymore. What's the point?
I don't know, I mean, the money has to come from somewhere.
If we're
going to raise more revenue or cut budgets, it's got to come from somewhere.
One of the things I've asked.
You just can't ignore roads for years because there's no money because we got to balance the budget.
Well, you can't run an unbalanced budget.
No,
So
we can't.
that's what I'm telling you, that's exactly what I was saying.
That's the reason I said we got to cut
But
revenue, or
that's
get
exactly
more
what I'm
revenue,
saying.
or cut expenses.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We can make a decision to cut whatever percentage number you want, but we have to also recognize that's going to get us, if we cut 5% out of 1.7 million in general fund dollars, that's $85,000. Across the board, 5% cut, we can get $85,000. How much street work are you going to get for $85,000 compared to how much you're giving away in a 5% reduction in services to the citizens?
It's according what the services are.
That's the,
It's according what the services are.
If you do across the board,
They
it's
said
not.
get rid of
It's everything.
the mosquito spray. I don't know, there might be something else. I mean, they can look at their
$85,000, what
budget
are you going to do with
again.
that? How many streets are you going to fix? It's a start.
Well, I know I can
It's
do
a
some
start.
point-based streets,
You can do patches.
you know.
It's going to.
Something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
The way it sits today, if they're right, and they usually are, we're saying we're going to carry over $400,000, and you want to keep 200. In this budget, we were going to have to spend 261. So right now, you got to cut $61,000 out of this budget to get to that $200,000 level. You also are taking that $91,000 out of the TIF that, you're not going to have it next. If you want to worry about that next year, worry about that next year, but you're not going to have it in 2014 or 15. So, I mean, we can use that 91, it's there, and it's going to be a payment to us out of the TIF, but again, we worry about next year. But to get to the $200,000 that we were at last year, we got to cut $61,000 out of this budget, and that's not including if health insurance goes up and how we're going to cover that, and that's not including any consideration for raises if you want to consider that too.
So to simplify that in my mind, to get to zero, we have to cut $61,000 right now, with a few other things still out there we don't know about, namely being insurance. And then, whatever we can cut past that could be used for road and street repairs. So we're already 61,000 challenged. Right? So do you not fix a street to run a balanced budget? That's the question. I know my answer is yes, you don't. You have a balanced budget.
We're 61,000 off right now without giving raises.
Right.
That's not figured in.
And that's what everybody, and I say what little wish list is out there, it's been presented to you. That is another car and keeping those staff and the Main Street Park, and all of that is, It's in there.
Yeah.
It's in there. Everything that's been presented to you that we've talked about, the questions.
Well, I
it's in
said,
there.
I can balance this budget based on what we've heard so far and the 200,000 that we're over kind of the bottom cash that we want to keep on hand.
Yeah.
And, but it's taking out that truck and taking out that car and, not doing Main Street Park. And, I mean, I can come up with the $60,000. But you didn't get any streets done. That's your point.
That's, then
get it
you were
back.
at zero. Where are we gonna come up with to do some streets or, you're right.
I don't know, but I think need to make sure we're doing the right
just
thing
did
as far as
major
not
streets.
spending money and then trying to cut money.
I'm going to bring this up at great risk. But when I first came here, everyone said, why can't we have streets like Perryville has streets? Perryville streets are nice. How do they do it?
Not all the
Pretty
streets
simple.
are nice.
Walmart. They got more
Well,
money.
the simple is that they use their authority under the state statute, and they decide what streets they're going to repair, and they repair it, and the prorated cost of repairing that street is allocated across the property owners who benefited from the repair on their tax bill. And they pay it back on a 20-year repayment on their individual tax bills. The city of St. Genevieve has that same authority. But that's how Perryville does their streets.
Now, we looked into that. We got all the information at one time. Probably been about 10 or 12 years ago. Do you remember when we got them there?
I remember discussion about it. I don't remember having all the information.
We
So it
had,
may have
yeah,
been
well, I
before
had
that.
it, yeah.
You can do that without a vote.
No vote. Except the one that takes place the next time you stand for
Yeah,
election.
whenever you go for reelection. Yeah.
I don't, that's the same way, you can establish neighborhood improvement districts. So we could we could divide the city up and form neighborhood improvement districts for each whatever division you want to make. Then we can issue neighborhood improvement district bonds that are payable by the same method. Is the property owner who benefited from the new road will pay on their tax bill this NID payment, which is the amortization of that debt with whatever the NID bond interest is over the, say, 20-year term of the bond.
The bottom line is somebody's got to pay. That's really it. And no one wants to talk about tax increases. I don't want any tax increases. I can handle a lot of potholes on Seraphim Street. Really, I can drive around them for a long time before I have to start pitching in to pay to fix my potholes. And I think a lot of people would take that approach. But is there opportunity to save? Sure, in this budget, these proposed budgets, sure. But somebody's got to pay. And the people, if we do across-the-board cuts, the people that pay are the citizens of St. Genevieve and a reduction of services by the city. It doesn't hit their wallet, but they're paying somehow.
Did you get those figures for me as far as 3, 5, 7%? What it would
Not
be?
from everybody, but I've got them. I would wait until I got the last two in.
Okay.
So what are we doing with the fire department?
Yeah, well,
See what you started?
Can we let you guys
Teddy,
out
let's-
to look at counties or something? Make more money?
it is.
Do you want to build a jail? We're thinking about building a jail at the county. Let's build you guys a fire department.
It's actually
Federal
started
prison
last
would be
week
better.
at our first budget meeting, if you remember that.
Maybe we can bring the fire department to it.
So, but you're not just wanting the dollar amounts, right?
What?
You're wanting to know what they would do, what would be done in order to achieve those reductions?
No, I want to know how much money that would generate if we did a 3, 5, or
All you gotta do is
7%.
all you gotta do is go right here and take out 3, 5, 7%.
Okay, I asked Martin to do that.
Well, yeah, that's easy. The hard part is to say, let's just take the administrative fund. If you're gonna say, reduce the administrative fund by 7%, the only thing that we actually have a lot of control over, because we're not buying any new equipment, is salaries. That's the only variable, and then, yeah, I mean, we could do away with your pay, but that doesn't help a whole lot.
It'd be 30,000 a year.
Yeah. So,
I'd be in favor of that.
I would.
Either raise it or
You
lower
gotta
it.
have something to entice people.
so we either cut back hours, we eliminate a position, I mean, that's all you got to do, that's all you can do.
Retired teachers.
You ever figure out what?
Are we, well, let's
Yeah.
get done with these two guys
Okay.
before we have any more questions for these guys? All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
The only thing I would mention is that I don't have the opportunity to come to a lot of your meetings, especially the first one of the month, because I have a conflict there. But I do try to tape those meetings, and I did see that last month you had some questions on fire tags. So I've got fire tag information here. If you want to, we can wait around for you to finish your discussion if you'd like to have that discussion. If not, I can bring it back another time.
Was our conversation about fire tags really was surrounded, what do we do for people that don't pay them, right?
Yeah, how do we get the 39?
And we talked about
habitually
having a
don't pay
work
it
session
back.
just to discuss fire tags and discuss how other members of our community that may not be in city limits, how they participate in fire tags and how they probably should participate in fire tags.
I mean, we have, our district is lined out, it's out there, we do have that on record, that's on file. Your fire tag ordinance was done in 2005, it's fairly current. All those other things are out there, they're on file with Pam, so basically that is the only issue, and Martin and I had a discussion on that the other day. I would like to take that list and send it to all the insurance companies. Now, Martin has more discretion when it comes to that, and he says he doesn't think that's a great idea, but maybe that list could be available here at City Hall if insurance companies wanted to come and look at that list, because they're the folks that really have a lot to lose regarding who has tag and who doesn't. Now, yes, we can charge them if we go pay that non-tag fire, or we can do as communities have in Kentucky, and a couple of communities have done that and refused to fight their fires. That's not my decision, so. But whenever you want to discuss that, we'll try to.
But when we go to a fire for somebody that has insurance, we bill them for the service. And one thing that I just want you to think about, I'm not proposing it, but it's being done in other communities, not any kind of our size, but I think it's getting there, is fee for services. And so if you have a fire alarm system and it goes off and we respond and it was just a false alarm, you get billed for that. Now, you don't bill them for a legitimate call to 911, but for things like that,
Actually, we do have, ordinance for that.
We do have.
First one's 25, next one's 50, 75, and then you have to take some legal action, so. Yeah, we do have a lot of that stuff.
We do the, I don't know if we've ever done the fire, but we always do the, when they respond to
The calls?
the police respond on the
Yeah,
alarms.
that
We do
covers
that.
police and fire, right, Pam?
I
think it does.
I don't know if I've ever done the fire, maybe there's never been more than, the first one you don't get charged, I think the
Right,
second
yeah.
one.
Found a revenue.
If it does get chronic, we'll bring it to your attention.
Go around and rattle somebody's doors and windows so we can get like $75.
to the toll gate up the park.
To look at our grass.
Whatever it takes.
We should toll road the river road when they come off the ferry.
We can,
That's not
We
bad.
can't even get the grass cut down through there. They're never gonna get a toll road down there.
pay toilets.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Then somebody, it'd probably cost more to have somebody count the dimes than it would to.
Okay.
We good?
You guys are,
Thanks, thank you very much.
Set a toll road up on Portis.
Yeah,
Motion to
that'd be
adjourn.
the one, right there.
Second.
That would be the one.
one thing I didn't mention that I meant
Okay.
to in the meeting was that don't forget Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, the new River Gauge Park, as the downtown renewal project's been working on. If none of you, most of you probably, many of you seen the rendering that was created as far as the ideas. There certainly isn't any funding out there yet, but it's kind of a kickoff for that, and to recognize some of the people and to remember the flood of '93. It's the 20th anniversary of it, so there's going to be a few people coming to town that have been invited. They invited a number of people that were involved in it, and political figures, and some of them are going to be here. And so it'll just be a short ceremony down there Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
And Alliance has asked for a work session before our next regularly scheduled meeting to talk about water system improvements and line replacements. With Cochran present, so I will be calling a work session with your permission for 6 o'clock on the 20, whatever the next meeting is. You remember, 22nd,
Yeah.
6 o'clock on the 22nd.
Budget work session next Thursday again at 6:30.
It'll be the last two departments.
It will be
Tourism.
tourism
Administrative.
And Alliance.
and water sewer.
Okay. Alliance.
Okay. What time?
6:30.
Okay.
And that's what date?
The 15th,
And you're going to send me an agenda? aren't you?
of course.
The thing about Alliance, has,
That's my big deal.
they've got to work within their water and sewer fees. So, there's no general fund money being used for that budget. So they're going to.
Okay, nothing else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hi, thank you for watching Channel 798.
Thank you for watching Channel 7 and 98.
Hi, thank you very much for watching Channel 798.